In the middle of the Neom desert, there is a building with no windows. There are no flags flying out front, no ceremonial guards in dress uniforms. To a passerby, it looks like a warehouse. But inside, there is more power than in any palace or parliament. This is the Hexagon. It's not just a data center, it is a new kind of capital city. For centuries, we measured national power in landmass, gold reserves, and the size of standing armies. But as of April 2026, those metrics are becoming obsolete. Today, power is measured in flops, floating point operations per second. Think about it. If a nation's tax system, its power grid, its hospitals, and its drone swarms run on an AI model, but that model is hosted on a server owned by a foreign corporation in a foreign time zone, who is actually in charge? Meet the most powerful person you've never heard of, the data center architect. They don't give speeches. But during a brownout, they decide which AI models stay awake and which ones go dark. In a 2026 crisis, an architect has more veto power than a prime minister. In 2024, we worried about where our data was stored. We wanted our emails and photos on local soil. But in 2026, storage is cheap. The real war is over processing. This is data sovereignty 2.0. It's the realization that if you export your raw data to be thought about by an AI in another country, you are suffering from a brain drain that is physical, digital, and permanent. But being sovereign is harder than it looks. It requires a full-stack miracle. To own your intelligence, you need 3 things. 1. The lithium and cobalt for the batteries. 2. Energy, massive amounts of nuclear or natural gas. 3. Chips, the high-end NVIDIA and AMD silicon that makes the math happen. Right now, the world is falling into a dependence trap. The United States currently controls 44% of all global data center capacity. For a small nation in Europe or Southeast Asia, building your own AI is too expensive. So, they rent. They rent their intelligence from Silicon Valley. Look at Ireland. It's the ultimate case study. Data centers there now consume 21% of the nation's entire electricity supply. The servers aren't just in Ireland, the servers are the Irish economy. If those centers stop humming, the country stops breathing. War has changed. We used to talk about air superiority. Now, generals talk about cognitive overmatch. Warfare is high-speed digital chess. We use the OODA loop, observe, orient, decide, act. If your AI is processing a battlefield 5,000 miles away, the latency, the delay in the signal isn't just a laggy video call, it's a tactical defeat. Take the drone swarm paradox. To coordinate 10,000 autonomous drones in a synchronized strike, you don't need a general with a map. You need a massive GPU cluster within a few hundred miles of the front line. Without the compute, the drones are just expensive plastic. We learned this the hard way. In March 2026, a series of drone strikes targeted cloud facilities in the Middle East. It was the moment the world woke up. The cloud isn't some magical ether. It is a fragile, physical building made of concrete, copper, and cooling pipes. If you can't protect the building, you can't protect the nation. We are witnessing the biggest infrastructure race in human history. Enter Project Stargate, a $500 billion venture between Microsoft, OpenAI, and SoftBank. Its goal? To build a supercomputer so large it requires its own dedicated nuclear power plants. Energy is the new currency. In the US, data centers are projected to consume 10% of the entire national grid by the end of the decade. We aren't just building computers, we are building a new organ for civilization. This is why we see the sovereign AI pivot. Countries like Saudi Arabia and others, they aren't doing this for the tech hype. They're doing it for survival. They remember what happened to the gold standard. They don't want to be turned off during a diplomatic dispute because a foreign CEO decided to revoke their API access. Are we looking at a future CPEC, a compute-producing countries group that dictates the price of intelligence the way OPEC dictates the price of oil? In 2026, that's not sci-fi, it's a board meeting. But there is a darker side to the server room. It's the question of the weights. Vo. If an AI model is trained on a nation's entire cultural history, its literature, its legal precedents, its religious texts, but that model is hosted and owned by a company in California, who owns that culture? Who decides if the AI is allowed to speak about certain historical events? Then there is the authoritarian risk. Sovereign AI is a double-edged sword. It gives a nation independence from the West, but it gives a dictator a perfect 24/7 surveillance tool. An AI that lives in a basement you control is an AI that never sleeps and never questions an order. We are already seeing jurisdiction wars. What happens when a US court orders a data center located in Riyadh to hand over encryption keys? In the legal grey zones of 2026, the law belongs to whoever owns the hardware. The era of the capital city is shifting. London, DC and Tokyo are for the cameras and the tourists. But the decisions, the real hard-coded decisions about the future of the economy and the military, those are being made in the basement. By 2030, a nation's GDP won't just be tied to trade. It will be directly correlated to its megawatt capacity. So, next time you drive past a nondescript, windowless warehouse with massive cooling pipes snaking across the roof, don't see a storage unit, see the most powerful room in your country. The question for the next decade is simple. Is your country building its own brain, or is it just renting one from someone else? This is Rooted Roads. Let's talk about the future of sovereignty in the comments. Who do you think holds the server keys to your future?